Now, lifeadministration.com presents the Life Administration Podcast. Here are your hosts, Leslie Loftus and Ryan Taylor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Life Administration Podcast. My name is Ryan Taylor, and with me, as always...
Hello, everyone. I am Leslie Loftus.
That was very formal.
I know I did a different one. I just felt like being different.
Okay, right on, right on. Oh, my goodness.
Did you just say right on?
Right on. Right on, man.
Hey.
Hey. So welcome to your post-Thanksgiving episode of Life Administration. Hopefully, belts didn't break. There was no sort of crazy uncles doing anything inappropriate.
Right. The tryptophan gave you a nice afternoon turkey day nap.
And
all
please,
good.
I hope that you didn't talk politics, okay? I mean, if there was ever a time to not talk politics, this be the time, right? So I actually, last night, had our life group, our Thanksgiving meal. So where everyone brings like kind of like a potluck deal. And I ate so much food last night that, do you ever eat so much food that you can't sleep?
Yep.
That was me last night.
Done it. It's miserable.
It was, I mean, I had the meat sweats all night long.
I've not had that. I've just had the, just so full. And a matter of fact, I used to get a lot when I was pregnant and, because your tummy's smaller. Like you think, oh, well, you're using more. Yes, you are. But at a certain stage of pregnancy, the baby is crowding out your own organs. And, so 3 bites of something and you're full.
Yeah. But it
has nowhere to go, and you're just like, you're just miserable.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I didn't even sleep under the covers last night. I was so miserable. It was awful. Like the food was amazing.
Which is why you overate.
Yeah,
because it tasted good.
I mean, it was like we had ribs and ham. We had, ribs. All the sides you could ever possibly want. We had boudin sausage, right? I mean, just in unbelievable time. It was great. And like the good thing is we talked about it in the last episode. It's like, well, you have like meal time and fellowship time, and then it's like, let's go get into serious stuff. But like last night was all eating all the time. And we all knew it going into it. We're just like, we're just going to sit down and we're feasting, and it's amazing. So to all the other life groups, like your meal wasn't as good as ours. And I know that some of them listen, but I'm just telling you, it wasn't as good as ours. Like, I'm sorry.
You're a loyalist.
I am. So
sticking with your group.
Anything new and exciting for you?
Well, which one are you thinking of?
I'm not thinking of anything. I'm not you.
You're just throwing out the conversation.
I'm just like, what's new with you?
All right. Well, this is kind of new for me because this is the first time I've gotten I've gotten feedback.
This is a great segue.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's something new for you. A great segue.
Oh, shut up.
Okay, sorry.
Shut up. Yes, no. So usually, and I just don't know why, but when people, write feedback and give feedback to they give it to Ryan, right? Oh my gosh, I heard that and that was great. And hey, what about, could you do an episode on, okay, this time I got it. But this person wants to know what happens when life administration goes, like when it's all coming at you at the same time. And you like, how do you get on top of it?
Yeah. And I mean, super funny thing happened before we started recording this episode too. You got a phone call. Oh,
that's right.
I mean, perfect timing.
Perfect timing because it's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Okay, so my brother and his wife, they have my niece and nephew who are, goodness gracious, 4 and 2. Okay, and they've been doing some of this life administration stuff, right? And in particular, like budgeting. And so they have, household budgets and they have plans for, they're a very young family. So, okay, we're saving this much. We're going to, we want to do these projects around the house and we're going to, budget and save for this much. And, so they're thinking ahead. They've got kind of a 5-year plan in there. Great.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Okay. So today my brother works at home, and my sister, both of them work at home. I mean, this is COVID time, so lots of people do, but yeah. Some water starts pouring down. Anyway, long story short, he goes upstairs to find that the kids had overloaded one of the bathrooms with toilet paper and flooded, and the flooding had been going on for a while to the point that, it's pouring out like air ducts, they're tearing out pieces of, the neighbor came over, helped tear out pieces of, okay. The best laid plans. They had these plans. They had this budget we're going to do. Okay. Well, first of all, I don't think carpet was anywhere in their budget, but they're not going to be redoing some of that. And then there's other things like, some redos that they were going to do in the kitchen. And this bathroom is over the kitchen. So some of the walls in the kitchen are going to be, well, now, even if they planned on doing those 2 years from now it's going to come up and it's going to get done earlier.
Yep, it sure is.
Because here it is. So, how do you do life administration when everything goes sideways?
It's funny because, as you guys know, we write notes, right? We don't write a script. We sort of go off the cuff a little bit. But in the first couple of minutes, we always call it setting the table. And so you have, sometimes things don't go to plan. Oh, really? Sometimes things don't go to plan. What a shocker.
Are you mocking me?
No, I'm not mocking you. I'm just saying that who has ever made a plan that went exactly the way that they thought it was going to go?
That's a unicorn.
Right. Yeah. From A to Z, every
it's a golden unicorn.
I've never had a plan that just went perfectly. I mean, you have to call audibles. You have to make adjustments on the fly. And it can be very stressful, right, when that happens, because sometimes you don't know what the right thing to do is, what the wrong thing to do is. Sometimes you don't do anything, which is what I would say is the worst thing, right?
Not doing anything is actually doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a choice.
Indecision is still decision.
Right.
Just a decision not to do anything.
Right, exactly. To let it fester.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is a really good episode in the sense of, this past year has been so bizarre with the way that we are living our lives, and everything is different. Nothing, nobody put a plan together for 2020 that went the way it was supposed to go, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think we could, easy to, the one that goes around on Twitter all the time is, who had that on their bingo card?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Murder hornets. Remember at the beginning?
Yep.
Who
Alaska,
had that?
Or the wildfires at the beginning of the year, right?
They were going to be the big deal, right? Exactly.
In Australia.
So much has happened this year that was just not on anyone's bingo card.
And I'll tell you that
even after we adjusted the bingo card for the craziness that was 2020, stuff still keeps coming that's not on the bingo cards.
It's funny because this morning, I was showing Hallie, my daughter, that the big Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center, right? And so, they're putting it up, but everything just everyone's got the masks on. There's nobody there. It's very sort of, it was almost like a little depressing that I had to shut it off and go back to last year. I showed her last year, 2019. Look how amazing this is.
Yeah, exactly. Because everybody's milling around and skating. There's and all that.
Hundreds of thousands of people there. People are in the ice skating ring. Everyone's looking at the tree going up. They're clapping. It's wonderful, And
now it's like a surgical procedure.
And it was
in a cold
and it just
operating room.
Yeah, it just didn't have the sort of that same vibe that I wanted to give her. So again, but that Christmas tree's got to go up.
Right.
They have to make adjustments. So all that to say, life is going to go sideways. You got to be able to make the audibles when it happens. And again, and I think so much of this, and we've talked about it before, and it's kind of like my mantra at this point is mindset, right? Mindset. You have to know going into any situation or when you make a plan that there's going to have to be some zigs. There's going to have to be some zags. You're going to have to call some audibles and just be okay with it, right?
Well, and this goes back to one of our early episodes, Making a Life Plan.
Yep.
Okay. This is some of the stuff we talked about. You need to have a plan and a goal so that you kind of have a direction and you have a heading. But yeah, it's not going to be a straight line.
No.
It's not going to be. And what you need to know too is when you're making the trade-offs, okay, if I'm switching this up, then that means I'm going to trade that for that. And I'd rather you make a conscious decision about that in your zig than just accidentally end up, I didn't realize I was trading that for that.
Right.
Right. So that's why we have these plans.
Right. Because otherwise your loss of empowerment is gone. Right. And you feel like a victim.
Life is happening to you instead of you.
You're happening to it. Yeah. You feel a victim of circumstance,
right,
which is no one should ever feel that way.
Right. And it's its own depressing thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel that
totally
way.
powerless and it's awful.
So read us off the first question.
Okay. How do you do life administration when it's all coming at once? Okay. Again, pitch for the old way. This is one of the reasons that you plan in the slow times.
Yes.
Because it is a lot easier to get back on path. It's a lot easier to take temporary detours, all of that stuff. If you have a bit of a plan, if you have some life administration skills under your belt, which is why we hope that we are reaching you when you are, starting out just post-college or maybe in college. Because if you can establish some of this stuff earlier on, it's easier to do and maintain than it is to pull back because usually these are the kind of moments, if you don't have, some life administration skills under your belt, it's these kind of moments when you finally realize I've got to get some because you completely lose control.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
And perfectly honest, it's harder to set up at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No, it is.
I mean, when everything's coming at you, it is a whole lot harder to get control of. Heck, it's a whole lot harder to figure out what you need to get control of, which is an essential part of figuring this out. So first, let's look at what do you need to do? Okay. Whether you planned or you didn't plan, you need to assess what is working. Okay. Things that are working, things that are actually going well. Not only do we not want to fix those, but you don't necessarily want your other fixes to break them. Unintended consequences. Well, that part was going well, but then when I went to fix this other part, it actually ended up making this. Now it created another problem that I didn't have before. Okay. So first thing is assess what is actually working for you. Okay. Then go in and assess the things that are actually not.
Yes.
Okay. And try to concentrate on fixing those. If you're really in, it's all coming at you at once, and then you're going to need to, on top of what's not working, you're going to have to prioritize. Okay. So these 10 things are not working, but I really need to concentrate on these 2. Say, marriage and childcare or something like. Kind of depends on which problems are coming at you,
right?
On which ones need the work. But again, your focus, your mindset, stick with those. Think through the important things.
Yeah.
Your relationships count more than some of the other stuff. Then there's food, clothing, shelter, the things that you actually need to survive. You need, if everything's coming at you, then paying your mortgage or paying your rent is going to be a real stick it up in the high priorities, and you can worry about this stuff a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to do all those assessments.
Yeah. I think a really good illustration to draw to is when I was a district manager for Hollywood Video. You would classify stores into 3 different areas, like low volume tier, mid volume tier, high volume tier. Right. And so that just means that this store was always going to be busy non-stop. It was always going to be busy. And so as a district manager, you would go in and you would...
The store off Rockefeller Center or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, right. Like you would go in and you would say, and you would make allowances for them always being busy because they're always with customers. Customers should be number 1. So yes, that planogram wasn't set perfectly. You know what? The store does $1 million and change a year. I don't really care about the planogram. I care about that revenue.
Right.
I go to a lower volume store and they don't have nearly the volume. They don't have nearly the amount of customers coming in. And then you go in and now it's like you become super focused on, is that price tag in the right corner? How does the merchandising look? Is the planogram perfect? Let me see your schedule. What are the things that you're doing to try to drive business into the store? Right. And so in the slow times, that is when you should be looking at things with a fine tooth comb, going over every single piece of data for your life, basically, that you're going through. Now, in the high volume stores, it's not that you don't look at those things. It's not that you just say whatever, that it just is what it is, right? We're just gonna, you just make allowances and you say, okay, that isn't as important right now because the things that are supposed to be happening.
Take a note, put a pin in it, and deal with it when it's slower.
Yeah, it should be happening, right? So I wanted to add that illustration because I think people's seasons of life can change so quickly that you sometimes don't even realize that you should be in a different phase, right? That maybe in a slow, like maybe you're in a slow phase, and it just seems like, and this is maybe just a personal experience for me, but I've gone like, there is no mid tier for me, right? It's gone from like slow, then 5 or 6 crazy things happen, and all of a sudden my hair's on fire, right? Or vice versa. Like I've been trying to tread water for so long that I forgot what it was like to stop and slow down and analyze. And then when I do that for 1 second, I look around, it's like, well, actually things are a lot slower. I can actually take my time.
I've been treading water out of habit.
But
and that's one of the things that I want people to look at too. When you're assessing problems like this, look through what must you control and what can you give up? Because a lot of times, I mean, events come at you, absolutely.
Yep.
But especially when big events are, and you've got 5 big events coming at you, or hello, your toddlers filled up your toilet and flooded your house. Okay, in that moment, there are some things that you've got to be quick on your feet. You can't spend all of your time assessing. You've got to assess pretty quickly what needs to be taken care of immediately, what can hold off until later. But you've also got to assess, what can you actually control? What can you actually affect? Some things are going to happen to you, and you need to recognize that, and don't fight those.
No,
don't fight those. And then also don't assume you can control more than you can. And honestly, I think that's a pitfall. We haven't really talked about it much here at Life Administration, but when you're trying to, okay, I'm coming up with my to-do list and I'm coming up with my budget and stuff, you can get too command and control about it. That no, it has to stay right here in these rigid lines. It has to be in this box. Or I have to be the one to data entry all of that. Figure out what you can control and what you need to control. Because if you can't control it, don't bother. If you don't need to control it, don't bother. And you can save, quote unquote, yourself a lot of time by just accepting some of the things that you're not going to be able to affect.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. I think that something that goes with that, with control, is that people that tend to want to control all of that stuff, they also tend to worry a lot as well. And worrying is not a real thing. Like, okay, so like in the sense of, yes,
we'll get very Yoda on you, do or do not.
Yeah,
there's a lot to that.
Right. So like you can worry, but I mean, I've heard it said, and I wish I could pull, and I'm going to actually try to find this link, but it's like 82% of the things that people worry about never actually happen. It's always the things like, listen, your brother didn't wake up this morning being like, well, you know what? Today is the day that my upstairs is going to get flooded. Right. I've been worrying about that for a really long time. Right. And now it's like, there's this whole situation that he probably is within his right to worry about. I got to deal with insurance. I got to deal with contractors. I got to deal with budgeting. Like now it's like this whole thing. Right. I totally get that. But when we talk about it, like, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry about the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff, because the big stuff is going to come. You're never going to know when it's going to come. Correct. And it's going to be plenty to deal with when it gets here. Don't worry about tomorrow. Like those troubles and all of those things are going to come on their own. Right. Okay. You deal with what you can deal with right now and stop thinking about the thing that could be coming down the line that most likely probably won't even come down the line. Right.
Much less trying to control that it doesn't come down the line. So you've come up with this problem I anticipate, and I'm going to make sure that this problem doesn't come at me, when in fact the problem never would have come at you in the first place.
Yeah, in the first place. Right. Yeah. Because
but while you're doing all of that stress, you're missing the 5 other things that are actually rolling your way.
Right. Exactly. Right? Exactly.
Or you're using up, stress is kind of like
it's like a hot cup of tea.
Like a cup of tea. Ooh. Exactly. Here
Not in the notes.
Right. Not in the notes. And you get a little bit of stress, and they put a little bit of water in your glass, and a little bit more stress, and a little bit more. And then finally it's, the last bit that overflows your stress cup might not be that much.
No.
But it builds and it builds and it builds. And if you're stressing out and trying to control things that you can't really control, or it's useless to try and control, and and worrying about those things, then you're going to have less mental energy, much less preparation for dealing with the stuff that actually comes.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to go back really quickly to the plans working or it's not, the plans working, and kind of identifying what is working and what's not working. Okay. And so we talk about like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes.
Okay. So in my professional life, I was very good at this, where I could, see whatever, maybe it was the supply chain, maybe it was a customer experience, but I can see the whole thing from A to Z, and like, okay, we'll tweak that. I love the way that we're greeting people. It's authentic, it's real. I like that we're not pestering them too much. I like that we're giving them recommendations, but when they get to the register, it's like, it's slow, and people are stressed out because we're trying to check people. It's like, okay, we'll add more staff at that side. Easy fix, no problem. In my personal life, I'm very, very different in the sense of when something wrong happens, I immediately get ready to scrap the whole plan. Like and I don't know what it is. I don't know why I do that. And it's an area like, kind of like preaching to myself here. Like, come on, Ryan, get it together, but I immediately want to hit the reset button.
And start completely over.
Because for some reason, it feels like, well, if I start completely fresh from A to Z, everything is going to work better than if I just tweak this one little thing. And that is a lie.
Correct.
It's a lie. And so,
there's very few opportunities in life that come along where you can do a complete reset.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point.
There's big job changes. There's big moves. There's, new babies and stuff like that where you can, those moments that you can say, you know what? We're totally starting over. We're totally redoing how we do this part of our plan.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a big enough inflection point that we can actually do it and, get everybody on the same page. We'll talk about that in a sec. But those moments don't usually come. That just totally redoing and turning on a dime and switching things around. There's just not enough hours in the day to really do that. Yeah. And so it's another one of those kind of worries about things that are seeking to control something you can't control. You're going to end up causing more problems by trying to totally scrap everything and redo from the ground up.
Yeah. I think when I looked at our weekly schedule, was one of the days that we would do laundry would be Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. And well, now I said, we host our life group on Wednesday.
Right. So that doesn't work anymore.
That doesn't work anymore. And so like my immediate reaction was like, let's just like change everything. Right.
Right.
And it's
when in fact, you just need to switch Wednesday with laundry with something else on Friday.
Right. It's like, okay, so now this is going to go to Saturday morning, right? And you make 2 or 3 moves. Mm-hmm. But I, for some reason, want to be like, no, everything is broken now because Wednesday night is gone. And I know that might seem silly to some people, but I would recommend that if you examined your own life, and maybe it's not laundry night, maybe it's something else, maybe it's worry, maybe it's control, maybe it's some, like, we all have something like that. And so I would encourage you to just like really look at that. And, we talk about, and our next point that we're going to be talking about is like, you can't spend too much time assessing, because if you do, then you end up doing nothing. Right. And we sort of alluded to that earlier. So, because we got to get stuff done.
Yeah, you got to get, and especially if it's all coming at you, you can't, this is the last moment that you can actually redo everything, is when it's all coming at you.
Right.
Right. So yeah, you need to look at, okay, what are 1 or 2 things I can tweak to actually fix this problem that's making it all come at me right now? And sometimes it's, say a death in the family, and that's not possible, in which case you just kind of have to fall back on your plan. Or even let it go for a while. We talked about this in an earlier episode. Which episode was that? I don't remember.
We got like 47 now.
I know we've got a lot at this point. But sometimes, especially when the really big moments come, you just drop everything, and and it's okay. It's okay to mourn, to rebuild. You just can't stay in that stage forever. And that's when these life administration plans come and help. Because if you know how to make a to-do list, if you know how to make a budget, it's pretty easy to rebuild or to get back on it after you've had these moments where you just say, okay, hands up. But even then, that's not redoing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not redoing. That is taking a break and going back into it. Okay. That is an easier move to make than trying to rearrange it.
That's good. And I like that you put in here that sometimes you're just going to make some gut calls.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a better way to really phrase that, in the sense of, you could be seeing all the things on paper that say you should do it this way and you should do it that way and you should do it this way. But there's something inside of you that just doesn't necessarily agree. I would say, go with your gut.
Right. And then also sometimes you have 10 minutes to make the decision.
Yep.
And so you just have to go with, okay, I think it's going to be this way. Go with the probabilities.
Yep. Do the math, right?
Do the math. Do the probability math. And okay, yeah, this is 65 versus 35, but I got to take the 65.
Yeah. Right? Exactly. It's like you hit on 16 on blackjack. Right. You don't hit on 16. Yeah, you're probably going to end up busting, but it's the right thing to do at the time.
Right.
You gotta, that's what you do, because you're going to lose regardless. Right.
Right. So, exactly. 16 is not a winning hand.
You
need to go ahead and hit. And maybe you'll get lucky. Right. So you have to make some of those gut calls when everything's coming at you.
And let me just tell you that I have gone to Vegas with Lauren, and she will stand on 16 and win. And because the dealer will bust, and she goes, I told you. I knew it was right. Drives me absolutely insane.
Because that's not where the math is.
That's not where the math is.
That's 17. Don't hit on 17.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, she got a gut feeling, and she has learned over the years to even if she can't, it's one of the great sort of push and pulls that we have in our marriage is I can explain my reasoning. I can say, this is why it's the right thing to do. And she can go, literally, it doesn't feel right.
Peyton and I, my 15-year-old daughter, we were talking about this the other day, because there was something that came up with she and Jim and everything. And I was like, no, that sometimes happens. And especially not always guys and girls, but often on the guys and girls thing. Well, I want the data. I want the facts. And the gal's like, I got a feeling about it.
Yeah.
And
I have no problem. I tell her this, when she has that feeling after almost 13, 14 years of marriage now at this point, I trust it.
Yeah.
I do. I trust it. And I go, you know what? If that's how you're feeling, I'm going to go with it.
Hey, it's part of the partnership.
Yep.
Because sometimes the numbers carry. Sometimes really the data is, and sometimes you just have a gut feeling.
Yep.
Sometimes, and maybe it's other clues. Oh, what is it? Smart Hans?
No idea what you're talking about.
The horse that was that knew how to count was really taking cues from the audience members and from the trainer that didn't even realize he was giving him cues. But those cues exist, and some people are just better at reading the nonverbal, the non-number,
reading the tea leaves, as it were. Yeah.
Right. They can just kind of see around, and so they couldn't necessarily explain to you why they think the conversation is going to go in this direction, but later, if you had a recording and you went back and analyzed it, well, this person's body language, this person's tone, kind of all changed it. So yeah, somebody heard that's not where we're going with that conversation, even though it's clearly where the words were going.
Yeah, exactly.
Those kind of assessments, there are two different talents, two different skill sets for those. And when you have a partnership that has both of them, well, then you're all golden, because especially if you learn to trust each other.
Yeah. And I think that sort of carries into our next point. It's like, when life goes sideways, when everything is kind of going against the grain, know when to make the call about something, and also know when to defer, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be with, a spouse per se. Sometimes it can be a parent, it can be a brother, it can be a sister, right?
It can
whatever.
Be a kid.
Yeah, right. Just know that you're not always going to have the answer. And especially in times of stress or loss or, any of the other things that 2020 has thrown at us, right? You're not always going to have the answers. Sometimes the brain's going to be a little bit clouded, and be self-aware enough to know, this is not the right time for me to be making decisions. I need to defer here.
Yes.
Because I could make a poor one.
Right.
So just want to say, get that little nook in there.
Well, then I have one final story. It's not my story,
Yeah.
but I'm a big Irma Bombeck fan, and we have. So Irma Bombeck was
is it history time?
Yeah, history time.
It's like 8 weeks since I've had one.
You've been 8 weeks since history time. Do you know who Irma Bombeck is?
No. Don't look at me like that.
Okay. All right. So she was a female writer in the 50s. I'm not sure exactly when she got her start and stuff, but oh goodness gracious, there's a whole lot there with journalism and everything and local journal. Anyway, she ended up on the housewifery beat, or as she called it, the utility room beat. Okay. And she was really, 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 really funny. So Irma Bombeck has written books about domestic life and housewifery. One of my favorites that I remember from when I was a kid, my mom had it on her nightstand because the graphics were great. If life is a bowl of cherries, what am I doing in the pits?
Right.
The grass is always greener over the septic tank. Anyway, and she wrote for about 50 years until her death. And which was, I think, 2012. That sounds right off the top of my head, but I can't remember. She was a mother of 3. Anyway, hysterical story. One of her last columns, and then it might have been her last column, was a kind of don't sweat the small stuff one. And she was like, you know what? Things I would have done differently if I knew then what I know now. And she's like, the world wouldn't have fallen apart if the day that I woke up with a cold and a mild fever, went to bed for the day. The world would not fall apart if I wasn't the one folding that load of laundry. Like, there were so many things that she felt like she kept trying to control and especially when her kids were younger and stuff like that, you know what? Yes, she needed to be in control of that stuff. Yes, she needed to be guiding the life administration of it all. But if she couldn't do it for a day or two or a week, the world wouldn't stop.
Yep.
So sometimes when life's coming at you like that, and all of this life, there are some things that you can let go.
Yeah.
And you can just say, you know what? If the clean laundry just makes it into the bedrooms, doesn't need to be folded or anything. And actually, this is a trick that I used a lot when I had littles is a laundry bin in their rooms, but I mean, especially when we're talking about onesies and tiny things and stuff, folding those, it's a very time consuming thing to kind of fold all of these, put them neatly in the drawer and stuff. When frankly, you're just pulling them out all the time, stick them in a basket in the room. They're clean. Did they stretch out on the babies anyway? The babies fill them out. Who cares if they're wrinkly? I mean, it's a onesie,
right?
It's a zip up, or a one zip. Those, the footy ones,
footy pajamas,
the footy ones with the one zips. Who cares if those aren't wrinkled,
yeah,
or if those are folded neatly? Let go of some of the things. The world will not stop if you're not controlling each tiny detail.
Yeah, we have a tendency.
I should find that Irma Bombeck.
Yeah, I think we have a tendency, and this definitely happens in the corporate world, but people feel like they need to justify their position by making it look harder than it actually is.
There's a lot of that in the domestic world too.
Right. And so it's like, well, who are you first off? Like, who are you competing with? Because you're not competing with the guy down the hall. Like, as much as you think that you are, like, you're not, right? You're just, people are just looking you to do a good job of whatever that is, right? So the point is, you have to be able to let go of these certain things. And you're talking the laundry story. I'm like, in my mind, I'm laughing because, we had, my closet light has been out forever, right? And I have like those long, I forget what they're called right now.
The fluorescent tubes. Right, I hate those anyway. Right. But yeah, and, so and they're a pain to get.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Because you have to measure them. They come in like 20 different lengths.
Exactly.
And you have to get the exact one. It's not, light bulbs come in, they have 3 different sizes of the screw bulb, right?
Which is, don't even get me going on
that.
Don't,
trust me. You haven't lived in Europe either, because there's T ones and there's screw ones. Ooh. Yes, it can
Can we just make one?
Can we just make that? Would be nice, but fluorescent tubes are worse.
Anyway, so Lauren, she put it, like, she's never put them in before. So she like put them in today and she turned the light on.
Thank you, Lauren.
Exactly. And I'm just like, because I'm always the one to do that sort of stuff. Get on the ladder, take the thing out, the whole deal. Anyway, but like in the picture, is I have these baskets, right? And the baskets are like hooded sweatshirts, right? Underwear, all of these things that don't matter when it comes to like face cloths, right? It doesn't matter. Like we do the laundry. Nobody's folding face cloths in my house. Boom, in the basket. Undies, boom, in the basket. Hooded sweatshirt, boom, in the basket. Like it just doesn't matter. You just gotta find your thing.
Unwrinkled sweatshirt or unwrinkled underwear is a lower priority item.
Right, exactly. But when it comes to like slacks or a collared shirt, like there are certain that like let me just tell you,
clean dishes, that's a bigger deal.
Yeah. Right.
Clean underwear.
If I put honey, I'm looking at you right now. If I put my pants in the laundry without A, checking my pockets, B, the zipper not being up, C, it not being buttoned, I'm in deep doo-doo. If my shirts are not buttoned when I put them in the wash, deep doo-doo. Okay? So I say that to say we all have our things, right? She has no problem throwing the light bulbs in, no problems with the certain baskets, right? You put that silverware in the dishwasher the wrong way, or you don't button up, like you're going to hear about it. I wish he would let go of some of those things, but nevertheless. Okay, tangent over.
Exactly. But those are perfect examples of something. And it's not a big deal if everything's not coming at you. Well, you can be a little controlling about that. But when it's all coming at you, one of the things that you can do to free up time, what can I actually let go?
Yeah, exactly.
What does not have to be me?
Yeah, that's great. Yes, perfect. So you're in this phase, right, of, we talked about it earlier, sort of like treading water, just trying to keep things afloat. Inevitably, that season passes, and then you go into this season of recovery, right? Things are going to be there. So how do you recover when things start to slow down, when they start to settle down?
Okay, well, two things. One, if you have a plan, revert to that plan.
Right.
Go back to the plan. Use your habits. Get my calendar back up to speed. Get my to-do list going again. Figure out where in that crisis we went off budget, and now reassess your budget and go back to your plan and get back on get back on target. If you don't have a plan, then now's the time to make one.
Right.
Now you've just gotten a lesson why you really need one. And you've also gotten a whole lot of data. So
you just went to the school of hard knocks. This is why you need a plan.
So last time with our 2 times ago, I guess, planning for the holidays, I talked about debriefing. So you've just gone through an event, or you've just made, you've had an event, you've had a party. And so the day after, you take notes on what worked, what didn't. Oh, I over-ordered on the taquitos. I didn't have enough margarita mix, whatever it is.
That's a bad one. Too many taquitos, not enough margaritas.
It is a bad one. It is.
That's rough.
Exactly. And it just popped right into my head. But you take notes at the time that the event is close and you can remember it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you've just gone through a crazy time and you don't have a plan, well then, all right, start to sit down and assess what went wrong, and what went right again. And start to so what kind of plan can I put in place? So maybe it was the flooded bathroom, and we didn't have a budget. And so this absolutely wrecked. I didn't even know I was going to pay my mortgage this month because I ended up having to pay for new carpet and everything so that I didn't have moldy walls and stuff like that. So you need to have a budget in place.
Yeah.
Well, in which case then you need to go back to, I think it was episode 4 or something, making a household budget. Yeah. And we describe exactly how you can put together a household budget. But yes, if you haven't done one, go back and get it sorted.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, if you're fresh out of college right now and you hear the story about the bathroom flooded, you're like, well, I mean, that sort of seems far and away, maybe a little bit for you, but let me
plan ahead for it.
Yeah. But let me tell you about when you got new tires. Right. And you got your new tires, and all of a sudden 3 weeks later, you cost $600 to get new tires. And then you were driving to a friend's house and boom, a nail went into your tire and you got to go get a new tire. Did you budget for that? Right. Probably not. Right. I You know what? I hear this little squeak in my car. I like to use car because like people are driving cars at this age,
absolutely,
right?
Yep.
I hear this little squeak in my brakes. Like, yeah, it's not that big deal. Like, I'll go get it checked out in a week. But what you didn't realize is that you grinded your brake pads down to the rotor. And so instead of paying $60 for brake pads, now you're spending $800 because the rotors need to be replaced, the discs need to be replaced, and then you need new pads. So like these things are going to happen regardless of what season. Like it might seem like a far off thing that like a bathroom may have flooded.
Right, because you're not going to own a house for a while or whatever.
Right. But the car that you're driving, or I mean, you know what? Hey, listen, I could save like $30 a month if I don't have renter's insurance. And
yes,
then,
you could.
Yeah, you could. And then you're going to get an electrical surge. And when your $700 TV goes and your microwave and your refrigerator, then what are you going to do? Right. So it's like, I'm not saying that to like drop the hammer, like hear the adult hammer on you. Right. But I'm saying that these are the times like it's, you got to really sort of look at the path down the road here a little bit. So when you're in those slow times, that's the time to do it. That's the time to do it, right? When you like right now, if you're like in our target demographic, right? If you're in sort of the like you're leaving college or you're just in college, like the people that I know that are way further ahead in life than I was all had the plan figured out. Now, when I say right,
they had the plan in mind. They had done some planning.
Yeah, well, they made decisions like I am going to start saving for a house. I am going to start putting money away for this. I maybe am not going to buy a brand new car. I'm going to buy a used car. Right? Like they sort of see these big picture milestones in their future and they're thinking of the ways and on how to get to them. Now, that's not saying that something's going to come or job change or whatever. Like I was one of those people that I was like, I'm going to be a music teacher. Swell idea, right? You know what I mean?
Total.
Yeah, right. I was like,
if you had a life plan, that was a different one.
Yeah, it was like and you said it earlier. It was I could do what I wanted, when I wanted, how I wanted. Like I was high up in the corporate position, and then decided to make this huge monumental shift. And I love that I did it, but like that old life is unrecognizable to me. Like there's no more like, do you want to go to Vegas for the weekend? Right. Like. That's not going to happen now. Or before it could have.
And that's even before you had the baby.
Right. Exactly. But the trade is that, well, I'm home with my family a lot more. Right. And so like, you're always like, what's important to you? What are the goals? What are you trying to achieve? If it's financial, then you have to do things to be financially stable. If it's be with family, then you do that. If it's having experiences, if it's education, like then you sort of roll those things out. So, and you said it earlier, like look back, right? Hindsight's 2020. Watch the coach's tape. Look back. Yep, that worked. No, that didn't work.
Yep. And especially when you do it close to whatever cataclysmic event has happened, the closer you can do it, the more you'll remember from it, the more you'll be able to take, the more details and good bits of information you can take out of it because you'll have more immediate memory of it.
Yeah. And you put this in there. It's like, so now you plan and you have this new, because you came out of a cataclysm and you plan. Now you like make these adjustments, like thinking about if something like this happens again, what is the audible going to be? How am I going to change? Right. What can I do differently? So I'm not maybe caught by surprise. Right. I love that.
Right. Now, whether you're coming up with a new plan at this point or you are modifying an old plan, to the extent that things are new, you need to inform the people around you. Like, so for instance, not such a big deal with roommates unless it's like a budgety thing but once you get into a family and once you have a family, if you're modifying first of all, you're probably working the plan out with your spouse, but I have older kids. If I've changed the plan significantly on what we're doing and how our weekly rhythms go, like who cooks what meals, who, maybe I change all their chore spheres, whatever. There are times that I've gone through and I've said, you know what, we're in a new season. It's time to switch up who does what chores. It's no good if I don't inform them about it.
No. Sure
and
isn't.
in fact, as my children get older, it's less good if I don't include them in the planning process. for two reasons. One, I want to teach them how to make these kind of plans so that when they get up to the 20-year-old or so phase, they can start to do these for their own life.
Yes.
Okay. Two, how much compliance do I think I'm going to get out of 16-year-olds if I'm just telling them you have to do this versus, okay, they want to have more autonomy. They want to have more control over their lives. So I'm going to bring them into the planning process so that they feel like they have it. And not really, so they actually do have it.
Yeah.
And sometimes they surprise you. Well, Mom, I had one kid, this was a couple months ago. I'd really like to know more about, I kind of know how to do baking, but I don't really know how to do cooking. So she slotted into the, I use her as the primary sous chef in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and she's the last one to kind of really know how to, or learn how to cook besides baking. So it made sense, but that was her request. Mom, I want to do more cooking, and cooking's one of those practical skills you kind of need to do. So after, when the kids were smaller, started them with a dinner knife and a banana and then avocados, so, we learned how to do simple things like cut this, chop this, how to prepare simple, this is how you prepare pasta, whatever. But the big thing is, when they get older, stick them as your sous chef, which again, French, sorry, lots of culinary terms are French. That's the under chef. So the one that assists you, okay, you're doing the main dish, but they're cutting up all of the stuff for the mise en place, for the, the ingredients. I know.
No, hey, listen.
And we've done it in the cooking shows. We've explained all the terms.
If you've listened to us, you know what that means, because we went round and round.
Exactly. So they learn how to set up all the ingredients, which is then and teaches them what the ingredients are for this. They're watching you do it. They're preparing the sides, typical sous chef kind of stuff. Yeah. But then you slowly graduate them up until you have your children make the meal for the first time, and you might eat cardboard, but it's worth it.
It's worth it.
It's worth it.
Short-term pain for long-term gain.
Exactly. But yes, please, if you're changing your plans, keep everybody informed, and to the extent that you have older children, involve them somewhat in the planning process.
Yeah, and I would say if you're in a relationship, you need to talk to your partner about what you're thinking about doing before you go and do it. When I made the change from leaving the corporate world to becoming a music teacher, that's
something you got to discuss together.
Yeah, there were conversations that were had beforehand. I said, is this something? Because I had a contract that I had to fill out, right? Mm-hmm. With my old companies, I had to work at this certain place for a year, and so Lauren and I both knew that when that year was up, I was out of there. It was just about, well, what is the next step in our life going to be? Because there was not going to be a starting of the family with me being gone 20 days out of the month, right? That's not, when we got married, that's not what she signed up for. I was like a DM, and I was always home, and I came home every night, and then things got changed. Anyway, so
and then things change, and then you're not home at all, and it's kind of like,
this is not what I signed up for.
This is about the time that we would be thinking. So these are the things that your plans for your life come in. Well, no, I do want to have a family, which means, maybe I need to modify this career path, which is what you ended up doing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that requires a lot of talk, and it needs to come in the slow times, because it can't come in everything's hitting the fan at once.
No, absolutely not. Because that in itself will be things are hitting the fan phase, right? That in itself, when it's when that first paycheck is not there anymore, and it's oh, this is going to be a little bit different. This is not,
It's theory is one thing. Practice is another.
It's going to be so great that I'm home all the time. It's also going to be really great that we have no money whatsoever. Woohoo! Oh my goodness. My last thing is, you've heard us say, and Leslie mentioned it in passing earlier. We have a making a life plan episode. So you hear us say the plan. We've said the plan a ton of times. This is almost, look, I bumped my own mic there.
There you go.
Bad boy. That's sort of if you're listening to this episode, it's I hear you guys talking about the plan, but I don't even know how to make the plan. We
talk about that. That was episode 3.
Yeah. And that's a very, very good episode. When we're on target and really sort of going through and mapping out how to make it, when to make it, what that all sort of looks
how
like.
Flexible to make it.
Yeah,
we call it the Goldilocks plan.
Yeah, freedom within the framework, all that sort of stuff.
We got lots of good stuff.
Good times.
Oh, and it's one of the first episodes we'll be talking about when we go radio streaming on Twitch.
Yeah, so soon. Live on Twitch will be in the just chatting area. So last week we talked about. So this is Thanksgiving week, right? So
I'm not sure.
This is past Thanksgiving week.
This is the Monday after Thanksgiving.
So this will be in fact. So again, I mentioned it in the last episode, but we're going to send out a little something in the podcast feed that says this is when it's going to be. Really want to see you there. And it's going to be live on Twitch, going to be live on YouTube at the same time. And in the beginning, we're just going to go through some of these really like fundamental episodes.
Right.
Number one, maybe have a little bit of a chuckle of what we were like in the beginning versus what we were like now. But also be able to kind of pause that, draw some things out that maybe need to be drawn out.
And take your questions
and
as they come.
And
I'm really excited about that. Like actual live interaction.
Yep.
I'm excited about that part.
Because I think that is going to be a lot of fun.
Right.
And the questions, they don't have to be limited to the scope of that episode. Like we have, like I said, we almost have 50 episodes at this point. Right. We've covered a lot of different topics. I'm pretty sure that there's not going to be a question that you're going to throw at us that we haven't sort of touched somewhere along the line. But I mean, we're going to have a good time. It's going to be fun. I think we're going to have, you'll have a glass of wine in your hand for the happy.
Perhaps I will.
Yeah,
yep.
I'll have.
I'm trying to get my husband to make me some milk punch. Alton Brown came out with a new reloaded episode, and then he was doing lower alcoholic drinks. And there's this stuff called milk punch that looks really cool.
Okay.
So I'm having Jim make it for me.
All right. Milk punch. Maybe we'll have some milk punch. Anyway, if you've been listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or whatever podcast platform you're listening to us, please give us a 5-star rating. Leave some comments. Let us know how we're doing, or if there's anything that you want to see us cover. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, thumbs up for the like, and you can hit that bell icon for notifications. We'll always let you know when a new episode is posted, which is typically around Monday around 12 or so. I can be found on Twitter at Ryan Tailon, RyanTaillon. Take it away, Leslie.
He can spell his name. So proud.
45 episodes later.
And I can be most easily found on Twitter at Leslie Loftus Tex, TX. And you can also get me at Leslie at lifeadministration.com.
And Ryan at lifeadministration.com as well. Other than that, any clothing? Do you have any clothing thoughts? Yes, I do. I really.
Yeah, I'm ready for it to be cool again so that I can wear more sweaters. That's my clothing thought.
Very nice.
It's in Houston, and we've had maybe a week's worth of under 50 weather.
Dude, don't even get me started.
I'm sorry, Boston boy over here is actually nostalgic for snow.
Yeah, well, I mean, I looked at the map this morning, and it was, icy and rainy and gross up in the northeast.
It's gorgeous outside. It's gorgeous. It's 70 degrees and sunny.
But it's not gorgeous in the way that...
It's not fall gorgeous. No, it's everybody else is sunny.
Yeah.
Everybody else it's summer. Yeah.
So you just got to let that go, right? If you just take it for what it's worth.
Speaking of things
to let
go, that would be.
Yeah. And just realize that it is, 70 degrees. It's November. I'm driving down the highway with my windows down. Life is good.
There you go. Roll with it.
Roll with it. Celebrate the small things, All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. That will do it for us.
It will.
And we'll see you in the next one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.